Om
Om
Sadashivasamrambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Acharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam.
Om
Om
Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavichishravahai. Om Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Tat Sat.
Namah Shivaya.
Okay, so we had finished the Dhyana slokas and we had finished the first verse of the Stotram, Daxinamurthy Stotram. So we will now chant the second verse, verse number 2. Bijasyantari vankuro jagadidam prang nirvikalpah punaha.
Bijastantari
Puro
Jagadiram Pranirvikalpam Punaha
Maya kalpita desha kala kalana Vaichitrya chitri kritam.
Maya kalpita desha kala kalana Vaichitya chitri kritam
Maya viva vijrambhayatyapi mahayogi vayasvechaya.
Mayavi vijrambhayatyapi mahayogi vayasvechaya.
Asmai Shri Guru Murtaye Nama Idam Shri Dakshinamurtaye.
Tasmai Gurumurtaye
Nama
Namadam
idam
Shri
Shri Dakshinamurtaye.
So, Bijas Yantari Vankuro Jagadidam Prang Vikalp Punaha. So, Bijasya Antaraha. You understand? Bijasya Antaraha means what?
Inside the seed.
Inside the seed. What is there? Nirvikalpa Ankura. Nirvikalpa Ankura Asti Bijasya Antara. Within the seed, the sprout is there, or the tree is there, or the plant is there. But Nirvikalpa Ankura, that is, Ankura is the sprout. Nirvikalpa means undifferentiated. And therefore, within the seed, the potential sprout, the potential tree exists within the seed, but it is an undifferentiated form, which means you can't make out which are the leaves and which is the trunk. Nothing can be made out, which are the branches. The entire thing is in potential form. In the same way, he is saying that the entire universe exists in potential form in Brahman. So Jagad Idam, this Nirvikalpa Jagat, this universe in undifferentiated form, in potential form, was already existing where? In Brahman. A very important idea is being conveyed that the world was not created because it is already existing, albeit it is existing in a undifferentiated form, but existing it is. Nothing new has been created is the idea being conveyed. So the world was existing, but in avyakta avastha. And this teaching, this philosophy is called Satkaryavadaha, which means that any product must exist in potential form in the cause. Any karyam must always be there in its karanam. And therefore, the sprout or the tree, it exists in the potential form in the seed. Similarly, the universe exists in potential form in avyakta maya avastha in Brahman. And then what happens? Maya kalpita desha kala kalana vaichitra chitrikritam. So chitrikritam means to make manifest. That unmanifest universe, chitrikritam, manifests itself From where? From the Nirvikalpa seed. From the non-differentiated seed, the Vikalpa, the differentiation becomes manifest. So when the tree comes into being, you have the trunk, you have the roots, you have the branches, you have the leaves, all the Vikalpas come, all the differences come. Similarly, from that Nirvikalpa Brahman, from the Brahman in which the Jagat exists in Avyakta Avastha, in Nirvikalpa Avastha, this differentiated Vikalpa universe is born. And what is the cause for this universe, for this differentiation? Because if the universe is existing in a non-differentiated form in the seed, there must be something which triggers off the differentiation. How does it occur? So he says, Desha Kala Kalana. Kalana means the connection or the influence. And therefore, because of the Desha Kalana, the influence of Desha, space. So Desha is to become a space, and Kala Kalana, influence of Kalaha. Differentiation begins. How do you say that space and time, Desha and Kala, they bring about differentiation? Because of the separation between two objects by space. The people or the objects, they appear different because there is a spatial division between them. They are separated by space. Between me and the glass, there is space. So I appear different, the glass appears different. And similarly, Kala Kalana, when divided by time also, people and objects are different. So the past, there must have been some I, and in the future there is an I, present there is an I, it's the same I, but they all appear different because of the division by time. A very important idea is being conveyed that differentiation appears. We think that there is differentiation because of the influence of space and time. Therefore, space and time is the karanam for multiplicity, plurality. And to put it in other words, Advaitam, the Advaita Brahman, appears in Dvaita Avastha when you are looking through the curtain of time or space. In both cases, there will be differentiation. Then the next question is, okay, what is the karanam for time and space? What is the cause for time and space? So he says, Maya Kalpitaha, projected by Maya. Maya Shakti alone projects space and time. Brahman is Advaitam, is non-dual, continues to be Advaitam. But when I look at that Brahman through the curtain of time and space, to me, a dualistic world is seen. I see a world of plurality, of multiplicity. And so he says, Vijrambhayat yapi. So if you break up that, Yaha Vijrambhayati api. So Yaha refers to that Brahman. Vijrambhayati, he expands or he creates. So api. There are three words are there. Yaha, Brahman. Vijrambhayati, he creates. And therefore, when you say he creates, it is the intelligent cause. So that Brahman is the intelligent cause. And the word api is carefully added afterwards. Api means also. So what could it possibly mean? When you are saying Brahman is the intelligent cause and also.
And also the material cause.
And also the material cause. So that is how you interpret these slokas. And you are able to do so now because you are advanced students. You are understanding how the whole thing functions. This is only a summary. Therefore, Yah Vijrambhayati, that Brahman, he creates, he is the intelligent cause, and he is the Upadana Karanam api. He is also the material cause. And what tools does he need? What instruments does he need? Because the Brahman is Advaitam. He doesn't have any instruments. What tools does he need? So he says, Swechaya, Ichchaya. By his own wish, By mere sankalpa, he doesn't need any instrument at all to create the world. He just has to project it from himself, sankalpa matrena. And we can think of the example of the dream world being projected by us. I don't need any external tool to project the dream world. I, the waker, become the sleeper, the dreamer, and I project the dream world. How? Sankalpa matrena swechaya, by mere sankalpa, without needing any instruments. And Shankara in this verse gives two examples to illustrate this idea. He says Maya Viva. So Maya Viva, you have to break up carefully. Mayavi Eva. Eva means like. Mayavi is a magician. So like a magician who projects things from seemingly nothing, this Brahman also, he projects things by Sankalpa Matrena. There doesn't appear to be anything from where he is projecting, but the world is born, the world is seen. That is the first example, Mayavi Eva. And second example is Mahayogi Eva. Again, break up carefully, Mahayogi Eva. So Mahayogi is a person with siddhis, Siddha Purushaha. He has lots of these powers, right? And in our what they call literature, spiritual literature, Puranas, you have the story of Vishwamitra materializing an entire universe. Which story is that?
Trishanku Swarga.
Trishanku story. So just to tell briefly to those who don't know, Trishanku was a king, was a Raja. And he had this very peculiar wish. He wanted to enter Swarga, heaven, in his mortal body only. He didn't want to die, but before dying, he wanted to take the mortal body and go to Swarga. So he approached his guru, Rishi Vasishtaha. So Rishi Vasishta, of course, being a wise man, being a jnani, he said this is not possible. It is against the natural process. Because that process is that you have to die and then only the Sukshma Shariram goes to Swarga. But Trishanku didn't accept the answer. And then because Rishi Vasishta refused, he went to Rishi Vasishta's sons and asked them the same question. But the sons got insulted. They said that by coming to us with a request which our father has refused, you are insulting the father also, insulting us also. Therefore, they cursed the Trishanku, the king, to become a Chandala, an outcast. And that curse transformed Trishanku's appearance also. He looked now very, very much like an outcast, dirty clothes and dirty outlook, no longer looked like a king. But that desire was still so intense that he went to Vasishta's arch rival, who was Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra, of course, agreed to help him, and he conducted a yajna. When the yajna was complete, he requested the gods, the devas, to take Vishwamitra, to take Trishanku to heaven. And as it was against the natural process, the devas ignored the request. Vishwamitra was a great rishi, and he was furious at the devas ignoring him because it was an insult, right? You cannot ignore a famous rishi who's doing a yajna. And therefore, he said that even if the devas are not going to respond, I will use the power of my tapas to send this king to Swarga. And by mere sankalpa alone, by mere willpower alone, he told Trishanku, you go to Swarga. So Trishanku began to ascend to Swarga. When he reached the gates of Swarga, King Indra appeared and said that there is no place for a Chandala in Swarga, and he pushed him down. Okay, now all this is story. Right? Don't ask where is the gate of Swarga and all that. So the king began to fall down, and he yelled for Vishwamitra to save him. Vishwamitra used the power of his tapas to halt his fall, and the king remained suspended in midair. Then Vishwamitra decided, okay, if he cannot be admitted to heaven, I will create a new heaven for that king. So he created 7 planets, he created Saptarishis, he created some 27 stars, and decided to make Trishanku the king of the Devas, right? So he created Devas also. So Indra panicked. Indra panicked and came running to Vishwamitra and said, please, you can't do this. It is against the natural order. Vishwamitra told Indra that, okay, fine, I will allow you to be the king of heaven. But Trishanku will stay in this new, universe, and he will be king there, along with all the newly created planets, etc., etc. Indra agreed, and then in this manner, Trishanku realized his dream of going to Swarga in his mortal body. Anyway, that's all a story, right? That's just to illustrate the idea here that Mahayogi Eva, like a Siddha Purusha, has these powers. So this Vishwamitra actually created a whole universe. Anyway, so in these 3 lines here, Shankara is establishing that Ishvara is the what we call Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam, is the non-different instrumental as well as material cause. And then he says Punaha. When you read Punaha, you should read as Punaha, 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 again and again and again. Because what? This creation, this Srishti is a chakra, is a wheel. It's an Anadi chakra. And the idea is that you should be able to come out of linear thinking and learn to think of Srishti as a cycle, as a never beginning, or rather the beginningless, endless cycle. And to such a Guru Murti, to such a Dakshinamurti, Tasmai Sri Guru Murtiye Namaha, Idam Sri Dakshinamurtiye. To such a Dakshinamurti, I give my namaskaras. So that is verse number 3. Verse number 2. Now we will look at verse number 3. We will chant. Can please unmute yourselves. Yasyaiva sfuranam sadatmakam asatkalpartham bhasate.
Yasyaiva spuranam datkam atkalparthakam bhasate.
Sakshat tattvamasiti vedavachasa yo bodhayatyashritan.
क्या करिए बेटे, ये सब तो बाद में करना है, पहले ही रुक जाओ। लोगों को टाइम लगेगा,
यत् साक्षात् करणात् भवेन्न पुनरावृत्ति भवाम्भौ निधौ।
इनको कपड़ा दे
यत् साक्षात् करणात् भवेन्न पुनरावृत्तिर्भवाम्भो निधौ।
दवाई लिखिए।
श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्री
दक्षिणामूर्तये।
दक्षिणामूर्तये।
पहुंच दो, ये लोग ऊपर पे सब चैनल पहुंचेंगे ना।
तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्री
दक्षिणामूर्तये।
Okay, I have muted all because there's a disturbance there. Okay, so if you look at it carefully, the first verse literally was Tvam Padartha. The second verse is Tat Padartha. So basically these 3 verses are an expansion of Tattvamasi only. And therefore this, the first verse having been Tvam explanation, the second verse having been Tat explanation, this verse reveals the identity, the Asi Padartha, the identity of Tat and Tvam. So he says, Yasyeva Puranam Sadatmakam Asat Kalparthakam Bhasate. Yasya. Yasya means Ishwarasya. Yasya, whose? That Ishwarasya Sfuranam. Sfuranam is the coming into being or the manifestation. So Yasya Ishwarasya Sfuranam Eva Sadatmakam. The manifestation of Ishvara is really Sada Atmakam. Sat Atmakam is really existence only, Sat only. But Bhasate, it appears. Though it is really Sat, it appears, Bhasate appears as asat kalparthakam, as though it is mithya. Asat here means mithya. Therefore, even though the manifestation is actually sat, it appears as mithya. What manifestation? Sfuranam. This manifestation, it is truly sat, because it is the very sat principle, the existence principle, the isness of every object. But because that isness, because that Atma, that Brahman, is available in every anatma. And anatma is what? Mithya, asat. And therefore, that existence principle, which is sat, is available in every anatma, in every mithya. Every mithya is pervaded by sat. There can be no mithya without sat. So that is what is a very important point. Sat and mithya are not two different things. Mithya is dependent upon sat. Wherever there is mithya, sat has to be there. Existence has to be there. So to give an example, understanding very carefully this idea, in the rope snake, Rajju Sarpaha, the sarpa, the snake, is mithya. But the existence aspect of the rope, the isness of the rope, which is the sat, that is what is manifest in the snake. Because of the existence, that isness of the rope, because the rope exists, that is why the mithya snake can be recognized, right? Remember that the sat aspect of the rope, the satya amsha, as we say, the sat aspect of the rope is samanya jnanam, which means that when you are walking in the twilight, you see something lying there, which is actually a rope, okay? But you don't know it's a rope. Therefore, there are two portions there. There is portion is there and the rope portion is there. That statement is there is a rope, right? The satya amsha is there is, the isness. Rope is mithya amsha. So samanya jnanam is there is. Vishesha jnanam is there is the rope. And because of the twilight, because of the bad light, there is something is known, right? There is something that is known, but there is the rope, is the Vishesha aspect. There is the rope is not known. Instead of that, what we do is, we put a adhyasa, we put a superimposition. There is the snake. Therefore, the sat aspect, the isness remains as it is, but the rope aspect is replaced by an erroneous understanding that there is a snake. The samanya amsha remains as isness. The vishesha amsha, which is actually a rope, has been misunderstood as a snake. And therefore, this mithya object, the snake, cannot come into existence without the sat, the existence principle behind it. So here Shankara is saying that behind every mithya, remember that existence is there. It is easy to see the mithya because it's anatma, but one needs to be vigilant, to focus, to be able to remember the existence principle. It is like I put up my hand, you see the hand, but you are not aware of the fact that you are seeing the hand because of the light alone. Both are there. The hand cannot be seen without the light, but the light is forgotten, only the hand is seen. The mithya is easy to see, the satyam is easy to ignore. Then he says, Sakshat Tattvamasi iti Vedavachasa Yo Bodhayati Asritan. Carefully breaking the sentence up. Sakshat Tattvamasi iti Vedavachasa Yo Bodhayati Asritan. Yo Bodhayati. Yaha Bodhayati. The one who is teaching me is who? Daxinamurthy, Lord Shiva in his teaching avatar. How is he teaching? Veda Vachasa, using the words of the Veda. And what kind of knowledge is he giving? Sakshat, direct knowledge. What is that knowledge? Tatvam asi iti. You are Brahman. Tat tvam asi. You are Brahman. That knowledge is being given. And who am I? Ashritan. I am the person who has sought ashraya, who has sought refugee, who has sought refuge in the teacher. So I am the student, the Sishya. I have sought refuge in Daxinamurthy. Now the question is, how do I experience this Sat, this existence principle? Remember that whatever experience I have, whether it is the body or the mind, there are two things. The existence principle is there, and there is a reflecting medium. It can be either the body or the mind. So whatever experience I have, it is always reflected existence, either reflected in the body or in the mind. Then the question is, how do I enjoy pure existence? So he says, Sakshat Tattvamasi iti. That pure existence is you yourself, the formless consciousness principle, Sakshi Chaitanyam. And who will tell me that? Yaha Sakshat Bodhayati. The Guru will show you directly, make you understand this idea that you are Atma alone. And Sakshat is a very important word here, because normally any description that you give is an indirect sort of a knowledge, paroksha jnanam, we say. For example, if I give you the description of Mount Everest, if you have not seen, that is paroksha jnanam. You have not seen, but you have got a description. It's an indirect knowledge. When does it become aparoksha jnanam? When you go to the Himalayas and you see it, it becomes direct knowledge, directly known to you. And therefore, that paroksha jnanam which I gave you in words, that get converted into aparoksha jnanam when you go and see Himalayas, right? Thus, normally, words can give you only indirect knowledge, paroksha jnanam, and paroksha jnanam has to be converted into direct knowledge, aparoksha jnanam, through experiencing the object which has been described. And this is the normal process. And therefore, it is quite understandable that people make the mistake of thinking that the same process applies in Atmajnanam also, which means first I get Atmajnanam from the teacher, which is Paroksha Jnanam, and then I have to convert it into Atma experience, Aparoksha Jnanam, through meditation or through some mystic experience. In fact, very many very good Vedanta teachers, they still talk about experiencing the Atma. First knowledge, and then experiencing through meditation or some experience or some mystic experience. So in the case of Brahman, what happens? We say that, do you have experience of Brahman? Yes, all the time. How? In the form of very existence itself. You are existing is experience of Brahman. You get up in the morning, open your eyes, existence of Brahman. You drink water, experience of Brahman. There is no time in your life where Brahman or Atma is not experienced, because it is the very existence principle itself. And therefore, no aparoksha jnanam is required, because it is already there in the form of experience. All that is required is the jnanam. What is this thing that I am experiencing? That is required. So if proper sadhana chatushtayam is there, remember the shravanam itself will convert itself into aparoksha jnanam, direct experience. Because the experience of Brahman is already there. All that is required is that you should know that that experience is what Brahman is, and that Brahman I am. And therefore Shankara says here, Sakshat Bodhayati, that Daxinamurthy directly reveals Brahman to you, that directly reveals Atma to you. There is no question of Brahma Anubhava later. There's no question of any sort of experience later, because Brahman is always available, right? And how is this knowledge given? Veda Vachasa. Through the teaching of the Veda, the knowledge is revealed through the Veda. The teacher himself got his knowledge from his own teacher, through Veda only. And so Veda Vachasa indicates there is a Guru Shishya Parampara available. Even for the teacher is never greater than the Parampara. And what is the consequence of this teaching? Yat Sakshat Karanat Bhaven, Yat Sakshat Karanat. Because of this direct recognition, Bhavenna Punaravrittihi, there will be no return. Punaravrittihi na bhavet. There is no return again to what? To Bhava Ambha Nidhau. So Nidhi is huge. Ambasa is the sea, ocean. Bhava is samsara. So there will be no return to Bhavambhau Nidhi. There will be no return to the huge ocean of samsara. And Bhava is what? Bhavasagara. Bhavasagara consisting of changes. There is Asti, Jayate, Vardate, Viparanimate, Apakshiyate, Vinashyati. All these which we learnt in Tattva is put under one broad heading of Bhavasagara, the ocean of samsara. And therefore in these three verses, 1, 2 and 3, we summarized Tattvamasi, the Mahavakya. And the remaining verses are only expansions, commentaries on the above three verses. So here, any questions we can ask before we go further?
Raviji, Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Hi. You talk about experiencing Brahman, that we're always experiencing Brahman. Isn't that a little bit of a misconception? Because Brahman is not amenable to experience.
It's a reflected experience. That's why I said any experience is always a reflected Brahman. It is never Brahman originally, because you are the original Brahman. So exactly. when you wake up, when you are conscious, that is reflected consciousness you are experiencing, because there is a mind. When you see your body, reflected existence you are experiencing, because the body is there. The body is. So the experience, the reflected experience is always there.
The reflected experience, but it's basically one has to remember the knowledge of the existence is primary.
Yes. From the reflected experience, you have to go back and say, this is because I am Brahman.
Because their existence is there. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So we look at the next verse, verse number 4. We will chant it. Nana Chidra Ghatodara Sthita Mahadeepa Prabha Bhaswaram.
Nana
Ghatodara
Jnanam yasya tu chakshuradi karnadvara bahispandate.
Jnanam yasya
Jnanam iti tameva bhantam anubhatyetat samastham jagat.
Jnanameva jagat.
Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Nama Idam Shri Daxinamurthaye.
Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Nama Idam Shri Daxinamurthaye.
So Nana Chidra Ghatodara Sthita Mahadeepa Prabha Bhaswaram. The whole thing is one word, what we call compound word, samasa. And you have to connect that one compound word, the first word in the second line, jnanam. So that where he says jnanam yasya. Yasya jnanam, this jnanam. So here the word jnanam has to be carefully understood as atma. And therefore the entire first line is to be connected to yasya atma, this atma. And what is this atma? Mahadeepa Prabha Bhaswaram. Bhaswaram, shining. Shining like what? Mahadipaha, like a great lamp. Okay. And what is the speciality of that lamp? Sthita ghatodaraha. Sthita means placed, kept. Ghatodaraha. What does it mean?
Inside a big pot.
Inside a pot.
Ghata is a pot. Udara is what?
The pot space, the stomach of the pot.
Stomach.
Udara is the belly, the stomach. So it's important to understand the words, to understand the beauty of the language. Ghatodaraha is Ghata Udaraha, the stomach of the pot, the belly of the pot. And of course, what you said is correct. That means in the space inside the pot. So that great lamp, Mahadipaha, which is Prabhabhaswaram, shining, where is it placed? Sthitaha. It is placed in the Gata Udaraha, in a pot, inside the space in the pot. What kind of a pot it is? Nana Chidraha. It has got many holes in it. Okay. What is being conveyed? There is only one light. The lamp, Mahadipa, one light is there. Ekam light inside the pot. But the light coming out, they are multiple because of the various holes in the pot. And therefore, Bahispandate, the light of the lamp, Nana Chidras Bahispandate, flows out through the many holes in the pot. Okay. So you have, when you see the pot, actually there is only one light inside. But when you're looking from outside, you see very many streams of light coming out. And it says, Chakshuradi Karana Dwara, is comparing it. Like the various Indriyas, Chakshuradi means, Chakshu is the eye, Adi is etc. So like the various sense organs, each of these beams of light, what happens? It falls on a different object, right? When there are several beams of light coming out of the pot, you will have several objects in the room, and one beam of light will fall on one object, another beam of light will fall on another object. Remember, it is the same light, but it has been bifurcated into different beams. So he says the sense organs are compared to the various holes in the pot. What is behind all the sense organs? The light of consciousness alone. The light of Atma alone is there. But that light coming out through various Indriyas, they fall on different objects. So Sparsha, Rupa, Gandha, all that have remembered from Tattva Bodha. The 5 sense objects have 5 different fields, but it is the same consciousness arising out of the Atma, which is as if bifurcated because they are flowing out through different Indriyas, and therefore they pick up different fields of action. So behind all of them is what? I, the Atma, I, the light of consciousness alone. And then Jnanam iti tameva bhantam anubhati etat samastham jagat. Jnanam iti tameva bhantam anubhati etat samastham jagat. I should know, right? Jnanam iti tameva, that Atma alone bhantam. I should know jnanam iti tameva bhantam. I should know that it is the Atma alone which is shining, and anubhati etat samastham jagat. Anubhati means there is a secondary meaning that it shines after the Atma. Word anu used for following. So first the Atma shines, and then anubhati samastham jagat, the entire world shines after it. So first the light of consciousness is there, and then only, that's when you say light of consciousness is there, first I am revealed, I the Atma am revealed, then only other objects in the entire world are revealed. Just like when you say Chandra Anubhasate, the moon shines, but it is Anubhasate, not Bhasate. Because what is Bhasate? The sun is Bhantam. The sun is the primary light. Because of the light of the sun, the moon also gets a light. Therefore, Moon anubhasate, after the light of the sun. What is being said is first the Atma reveals itself. It has to reveal itself first, and then only Anatma can be revealed. Any Anatma revelation can happen only if Atma has come into being, come into revelation. Therefore, the I, first person, always comes first. Until there is a I, there can be no you or that. Until there is a first person, the second person and the third person cannot come into existence. And so we have to very carefully understand that behind every act of being aware of an object, of being conscious of an object, that act is preceded by being conscious of the one who is the perceiver, who is the cognizer, right? If I am seeing something, an object, I have to understand that before I begin to see the object, I should also be conscious that I am there. I, the consciousness principle, am there. I, the first person, am there. And therefore, the object is being seen. So, behind every anubhanam, there is bhantam. The cognitions, the objects may vary, but the bhantam remains the same. Where did we see a similar idea? In one of the Upanishads which we have done.
Mundaka.
You remember the mantra?
Tatra Suryo.
न तत्र सूर्यो
Suryo na bhati chandrakam prema viduto kuto yamagnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya me
Tasyavasa sarvamidam vivati. Very good. Yeah. And therefore, what he is saying is that this enquiry the inquiry into the world has to ultimately culminate in the inquiry into the perceiver of the world. You cannot inquire into Anatma alone. The inquiry has to go back to the one who is inquiring. The inquirer has to be inquired into. Okay, so this kind of awareness, I think Buddhism calls it reflexive awareness. Simultaneously being aware of an object and also that I am the person who is aware of the object. Knowing the object, also knowing myself as the knower of the object. And therefore, the idea here is for awareness of an object, that object is required, right? If you want to perceive an object, that object is required. But to be awareness of the knower, there is no separate object required because the knower himself is the known. And that is why we say reflexive, pointing towards yourself. So with these 4 verses, basically, entire Vedanta, all Prasthanatrayam, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, Prakana Granthas, Brahma Sutras, all these have been summarized in these 4 verses. What is that summary? My nature is Sat and Chit. I am all-pervading. In me, the formless, all-pervading consciousness and existence, the entire universe rises, is maintained, and dissolves into me alone. And elsewhere, of course, Shankara condenses even these 4 verses into literally half a sloka. It's a very beautiful sloka. Most of you will be aware. Shloka ardhena pravaksyami. In half a sloka, I will tell you, he says. Shloka ardhena pravaksyami. In half a sloka, I will tell you. Yaduktam grantha kotibihi. What has been mentioned in crores of books. Yat uktam grantha kotibihi. What has been mentioned in crores of books. Ardha slokena pravaksyami. I will tell you in half a sloka. What is that half a sloka? What is that half a sloka? Brahma satyam jagan mithya jivo brahma eva naparaha. So that is a full sloka. Ardha slokena pravakshyami yaduktam grantha kothibihi brahma satyam jagan mithya jivo brahma eva naparaha. That is the last line is a summary of all that we have studied so far, which is of course summary of entire Vedanta. And as advanced students, we have to make a slight modification. Shankara says, Brahma Satyam Jaganmitya Jivo Brahmaiva na Paraha. When I understand, I should understand as what? Brahma Satyam Jaganmitya Aham Brahmaiva na Paraha. Okay, any questions? So I don't want to load too much, so I'm stopping with this particular verse. I want you all to think about it because it's very heavy. And we have basically covered Tatpada, Tvampada, Asipada.
Om Acharya ji.
Yeah.
When we say that Anubhatam, basically that it first arises and thereafter the perception of the object or the awareness.
Anubhatam means shines after. Shines after what? Shines after the Atma or Brahman. So that means, in the sense, when you say shine, you are saying the I thought is born first.
Right.
Only when the I thought is born, you can have the you thought or the they thought. What is the best example of this, proof of this? In Sushupti Avastha, there is no I thought. Therefore, nothing exists. They don't exist and you don't exist. The second person doesn't exist. The third person doesn't exist because the first person, the I thought itself, is resolved in Sushupti Avastha.
So, my doubt or question here is that just in the previous verse, we also spoke about the Sat and Asat
Yes.
coming simultaneously. This one cannot, I mean, while the Sat always is, you know, the rising of this also brings the rising of the other. And therefore, they are not separate from each other, but one.
But
Because,
one, however, Asat is dependent Sat.
yes, the borrowed.
Yes, the existence of Asat depends on Atma Sat.
So when it is said that the Asat follows, is it really following, or is it that for our understanding it is said to be following? Because
No,
the
unless
very
unless
existence,
the I thought is there, where is the question of any Anatma being there? You understand? Like you might say that when I am Sushupti Avastha, the room still exists. How do you know the room exists? Because somebody else will tell you, yes, it does exist. So that existed for him, but not for you. When your I thought is there, not there, the entire universe ceases to exist. That's why everything is Anubhati only. Quantum is only the I thought, the Atma.
if I can just extrapolate this to an example of the potential energy and the kinetic energy, and I'm still trying to just understand. So pardon me if that the kinetic energy is in the potential form already in the potential energy. It
Correct.
expresses itself as
Yes.
a function of its movement, and which is what we call as creation or prakriti or shakti or whatever.
Yeah.
But in its totality, it has everything already in it.
No.
The created, the
It doesn't
uncreated.
have the existence principle in it. When you are extrapolating that, you are extrapolating Maya to be the potential form. Brahman is not potential form.
I get the point now.
Yeah. Maya can be extrapolated. Maya is in potential form. Maya is in avyakta form. It becomes vyakta. But for Maya to operate at all, Brahman needs to be there. So Maya exists because Brahman exists.
And therefore, even without that, this yet always remains.
This existence principle, the consciousness principle, it always remains.
Right. Thank you so much.
Okay. So with this, we'll stop. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam
Purnamidam
Purnat Purnamudachyate
Purnamudachyate
Purnasya Purnamadaya
Purnamadaaya
Purnam
Purnam
Eva
Eva
Vashishyate
Vashishyate.
Om
Shanti
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 Shanti.
Shanti Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya
Om Namah Shivaya.
Thank you.
Shivaya.
Thank you, Acharya.
Thank you,
Om Namah
Acharya.
Shivaya. Thank you, Acharya.
Thank you, Acharya.